Hey, Eric. I was going to wait a little bit, see if anybody joins. Hey, we got a couple. Give it a couple mornings. Well, good afternoon, everybody from Europe. Good morning to everybody in the U.S. waking up early with us. Well, hey, folks. Well, I'm waiting for a few more people to come in. I guess drop questions in the chat anytime you want. Thought I would I'm going to talk a little bit. Eric's already seen it. We're going to talk a little bit about CritterWatch. Want to talk just a little bit about some of the thinking of really the not thinking about dynamic consistency boundaries in Martin. And big common theme coming up lately is concurrency with Wolverine. So talk a little bit about options for that. Got that. Cool beans. All right. Well, we get this recorded for the folks. So first thing I want to talk about, you might have seen us mention this here and there on blogs, maybe a little too cryptically. Um, Pursuing building out a management console and observability platform specifically for the Critter stack. We're calling CritterWatch. Um, the idea is that it would it would work with whatever your open telemetry tool and metrics tracking is. So you see the picture here. We're we're going to support Prometheus up first, but that's actually okay because a lot of these kind of tools support something called PromQL. That's a standardized way to query metrics out of your metrics gathering. So if you're saying we don't use Prometheus, that's okay. I think we're still going to be able to support you. Um, the general idea, the problems that people have trying to maintain Wolverine applications and Martin applications and real live production. It's where is everything running? I have all these projections and subscriptions for Martin events flowing. One's on this box, one's on that box, but where are they? What if something's wrong and you need to shut it down? What if I want to what if I want to rebuild a production in production, but I don't even know where it's running because Wolverine or Martin could be putting it anywhere. So it's where CritterWatch hopefully kind of fills in the gaps. It's gonna help us kind of show you here's where everything is running in your application. Here's how healthy it is, but also be able to kind of be able to send commands like I want to pause this projection. I want to rewind this subscription. I want to trigger a rebuild on projection two. And no matter where it is, um, CritterWatch is going to be able to get the command to the right place to make whatever changes you want. As well as just letting you know how is everything running, what's healthy, what's not, what is falling behind, what has had to stop itself because of some kind of circuit breaker condition. With hopefully giving you the ability um, to restart. All right, first question, Daniel. You're asking about Wolverine and Marten 4. Um, I was we had a little bit of a shakedown cruise the first couple weeks. There was more issues than I would have liked to have had, but I feel like we've gotten past all those. Wolverine barely changed. The problems were all around, um, silly as it sounds, it was all around the application assembly discovery. Because we tried to standardize that between Martin and Wolverine, so you didn't only had to specify it once. Nice sounding goal. I think we're past that. I think Wolverine 8 is fine. There were a few other issues with Martin 8 that I think we've dealt with, and just haven't really had many issues come in. Few little changes around aggregate stream behavior. Um, those are all very edge casey kind of problems. So yeah, I guess long story short, I think Wolverine 4 and Martin 8 are perfectly good to go. And also would like to never ever do a big release of both tools at the same time again. The problem is any major point release of Martin almost forces you to do a major release of Wolverine. That's okay, Daniel. I've mixed them up lots of times. We mixed them up on videos and documentation all over the place. So let's kind of get back to CritterWatch just a little bit. Some of the other things I think we'd like to try to do with it. Here, want to be able to show you this is what your application is. This is what's configured. Here are the message handlers. Here's what's handling it. Being able to get a preview of your generated code at any time, because that's very valuable, and being able to troubleshoot shoot issues. Um, and then also being able to show the performance numbers correlated to the message handlers, for be able to say things like this message type, how well is it doing? It's succeeding in this percentage of time. It has the execution time, average execution time of this, and then also an effective time of how long is it taking to go from actually publishing to get all the way to being handled, which will give you some information about, are my queues getting backed up? Is the system unhealthy overall? Do I need to add capacity? And I got one more picture. Oh, just talking a little bit about how it's going to work. We think it's going to work. So be very dashboardy kind of thing. We think this for right now. We're focusing on it being an application that'll be separately deployable into your environment or cloud provider. Mostly because this is what the potential early adopters, or the people who are already interested, this is what they want. We think for the most part, we're going to use Wolverine messaging to communicate between Wolverine applications and CritterWatch itself. We think that's going to help this be pretty low ceremony, so that Wolverine applications can even announce themselves to CritterWatch of, hey, here's who I am. This is how you call back to me. Here's a packet of information about everything about me. So, and then from there, start streaming events about, this listener started, this listener tripped off on a circuit breaker, a new node was added to the cluster, this one was shut down. A little bit about the state of the dead letter queuing. In terms of major functionality for this first, a little bit more. Sorry, guys. I'll blog about this pretty soon. So, just for the MVP, this is all we're focusing on right now. Being able to kind of show the static view. Think of it as like a really fancier version of .NET Run Describe, but be able to show you what your system is and how it's configured. This is also partially as this will be attached to support contracts. Um, when you're asking for help, probably going to be asking, "Hey, can you show us this view so I can understand what your system is and how you're using it?" Yeah, there's always a when you're trying to help people remotely, there's always a lot of some hidden missing information that they don't know to tell you, and hoping that this solves this. Um, you know, Obvious thing, we need to have something to manage dead letter queues. I mean, today we actually do have add-on HTTP endpoints for Wolverine HTTP that will allow you to manage and log replays and query the dead letter queue, or at least the database back DLQ. I'm not sure most people know that it's there, but this will CritterWatch will put a full UI around that, so you can, see a summary of what your dead letter queue messages are. Be able to do things like I want to replay all messages of this type. I want to Discord all messages from this tenant at I don't know, like some kind of time zone. But all the things you would expect out of a true enterprise class system to be able to manage dead letter queue messaging and replays or discards. What I'm calling the Agent Explorer here, this is, this is mostly about projections and subscriptions anyway, but Wolverine actually has the ability to do virtual agents. So, um, if you want to run some kind of process like the durability agent that manages your inbox and outbox, um, that's actually running as an agent. So there can only be one agent running across your cluster at any one time for a particular database. It's something you could actually exploit and use yourself, but this Agent Explorer is just showing you here is what's running, what's not running, how it's distributed across your cluster. If as we try to start getting smarter about um, how this is assigned, and then even giving you the ability to or pin pause an agent and saying, no, I need to turn this down. Whatever it's doing, it's not working. Turn it off until we can get something fixed and restart it. Or say maybe even override the load distribution and pin an agent to a specific place. Look for questions real quick. Um, the event subscription and projection explorer, this is probably the main, other than dead letter queuing that everybody has to have. This is the biggest thing people are asking for. So being able to see at a glance, how are all your asynchronous projections running? Show you something about the health of it, how far behind each projection is off the high water mark. Give you some indication, is the high water mark detection stale? Is something wrong with the system? And then also giving you the ability to potentially pause, restart subscriptions or projections, to be able to rewind subscriptions, say, hey, something's been wrong downstream and they didn't process the messages correctly. So I want to rewind the subscription to back to 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon and let it replay forward. With event projections, maybe be able to trigger rebuilds. Um, then we'll also allow you to probably trigger rebuilds of specific streams. That's something Martin's been able to do for a while that people may not know about. But we'll expose that here as well. And the rest of it, it's just kind of giving you an idea of what's running in the system, how correlate that to metrics. Some of the farther out ideas that people have talked about. Some people have brought up the idea of hooking up event catalog to it, just to get a visualization of, if you've got 10 services talking to each other, all being monitored by CritterWatch can derive who's publishing messages to what and who's handling it to what. Might be able to show some event catalog visualization to kind of show you how information flows through your system. Some other commercial tools do this today, and it might be a kind of an easier thing to for us to put out. Yeah. Any questions on that before I try to go on a little bit? And I'll monitor that window here no matter what. Down the line, some of the other things that have been coming up. Eric's in here. Something Eric suggested is maybe having a little bit more of a development time experience as well. Something of CritterWatch that just runs inside of your app and adds a couple extra endpoints, especially in development. Being able to maybe kind of walk through a projection of, I want to preview how this projection is working. And let's say I have 1,000 events already in the system. Let me advance the projection through events and see how those events really impact the shape of the projected documents. Maybe this could be something that would be helpful to troubleshoot projection development, and as well as being able to trigger rebuilds at will. You can do it from the command line, but surely a UI is going to be easier to use. Um, Other folks have brought up the idea of being able to explore your event store, be able to do a little bit of querying to see what's in there. CritterWatch will be able to do. I mean, it'll be able to do prettier things, as far as like showing you the JSON or maybe even being able to change and replay. So those are things we haven't really talked about enough. Um, and then some extra development time, um, envelope persistence management. Just kind of things you mess with a lot more at development time, but you probably don't care about it. Probably shouldn't do at production time. Things like I just want to blow away all the incoming and outgoing messages as I'm developing, or I want to clear out of my state, or I want to replay this one right now. I don't know where it's going to go. We're all ears. We're kind of open for what would really be helpful. Right. So this is, of course, is the first time we've ever done this. So I obviously don't know, have any idea what I'm doing here, um, but we'll see how this goes. Just now, a few other things. I didn't even. Shame on me. I didn't even prepare a presentation. I don't even really know what to say. I think maybe the next. I wanted to just chat about if any. Hey, Lawrence. Um, if anybody cares about this. Um, So if you follow event stores in general, you're bumping into an acronym called DCB or I think it's dynamic consistency boundary. I might have that wrong. So to maybe oversimplify it a little bit, it's your ability to work transactionally with multiple event streams at a time. I think they're the proponents of it. It's really coming out of Axon and a little bit of whatever event store DB is called now. Um, but it's coming out of the event stores that don't really have a strong transactional boundary support, and this is kind of their attempt at working around things. Just think about think about cases where you need to do an operation with more than one thing at a time. Um, so, like working with a customer without giving away too much of their domain right now, being able to make an order, have a customer make an order that also has to impact an inventory. So in this case, you might need to look at like customer account data from an event stream. You might need to look at the inventory event event stream and potentially append events to both at the same time, and do that with one transaction to have consistent data between them. DCB folks are kind of pursuing this with more of kind of almost the SQL-like language of here are my constraints. Of there has to be so much inventory, there has to be so much available funds, and throw an exception if these things aren't true. Might be unfair. Um, so with Martin, we talked this out with the other core team members and I. We think roughly we don't really need to pursue this with Martin just because we can already do transactional. We can already transactionally allow you to touch multiple event streams at the same time. Um, at most, I think what we're going to pursue is an optimized version of fetch for writing that will could span multiple aggregates. or multiple event streams. Today, you can do this at will. Um, you can do this at will to be able to append events to multiple streams of the same transaction, and even have versioning checks. The one thing we don't have is it's a separate round trip for each event stream, write model aggregate. So really, just looking at all this is really going to amount to is looking for a way to be able to batch the requests because um, you know it really is that big a deal to batch up database requests. So that's all we're going to look at is a way to batch up the data requests for fetch or writing. So if you're updating a batch of streams all at one time with fetch for writing, this is going to make that much more efficient to do on the initial fetch side. That's it. But we think that enough kind of inoculates us against the whole DCB hype. So other thing I was going to look at, let me stop sharing for a second. Just looking at my script. So, talk to folks, just pay attention over the last several years of what issues come up the most. What do people have trouble with? Switching over to Wolverine now. Um, kind of say on my music streaming, the number one band that comes up across all stations, no matter what, is Creedence Clearwater Revival (CCR). Right. Um, I guess they're just kind of roots rock that shows up on country, shows up in folk music, shows up classic rock. It just easy. It's like a go everywhere band. So I'm going to say that issues with concurrency are the CCR of Wolverine problems. What I mean there, it's people that have trouble with um, getting concurrent requests to make writes to the same Marten event stream at the same time. Getting a burst of activity from a user that all tries to hit the same stream. Um, what people do to work around this is they end up doing, throwing in some kind of queuing, trying exclusive locking, um, throw on optimistic exceptions and retry, but what if there's really a lot of it? So got some proposals slimming around. Um, and I don't know, and I don't know if Anne's here, but one of our core team members also kind of threw out a suggestion. Um, One option is to have a new local queue option, um, a little bit different mode of execution, where you can create some kind of grouping identifier for a type of messages. If you use Azure Service Bus, we're kind of thinking about the session identifier and first in first out queue support, um, where there's something about a message, whether it's like I don't know, it's tenant ID. Make it as simple as a tenant ID. If you're using multi-tenancy, that you're handling hundreds of messages every second, but they can all be related to a separate tenant. So to keep concurrent access to any stream from happening and blowing us up, maybe what we say is messages within a tenant ID have to run sequentially, but we'll allow messages from different tenants to run in parallel. So tenant A messages really have their own grouping execution thread here. Tenant B has a totally separate, and never at any time do you allow by doing this, you never allow messages that hit the same event stream or the same entity to hit concurrently with each other and cause you trouble, but you still allow the system to have decent throughput by parallelizing work as you can. So one option is do that with local queues with a new mode. With another client, we've also talked about a way to just distribute it across like external queues. So um, you have the option already today to run queues in a strict sequential order with Wolverine. And what that really does is it says that this queue will only run on one node within the cluster, and then it'll run strictly sequential. Um, we could kind of work on one thing that we proposed is messages come in from the outside as fast as they go. And the first thing Wolverine does is classifies it, whether it's tenant ID, maybe it's some kind of business concept, maybe it's a little bit of metadata on the message, immediately categorizes it and pushes it into a series of kind of segmented queues that are all sequential and all running in one place. So without the idea here is without the upstream sender having to know anything about how we handle things, stream it as fast as we can, but your system would still be able to distribute work across the node cluster, and make sure that you are running sequentially within groups of messages, where you have to run sequentially, but still parallelized. So to sum that up, and there's a couple other options in here as well. There's more options for queue segmenting, but the whole idea is to allow for as much parallelization as possible while still limiting concurrent access to particular resources through the way that we distribute messages through queues. So, folks, any questions on that, or something totally different than anything I've talked about? Those were the three subjects I wanted to hit today. And Eric, thanks so much for jumping on so early. It's got to be it's got to be crack of dawn for you. Hey, boo boo. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. This is the first Critter Stack live stream. We'll see how this goes, um, and we'll do more. I'll do this. I might start doing this anytime we just have like a any kind of cool new feature to show off. And yes, everybody, thank you. And remember to like and subscribe. And as some of the podcasts I listen to, remember we're all slaves to the algorithm. We actually need you to do this. And of course, just remember, Discord is open. Obviously, ask questions anytime. I am trying a new thing now where if I feel too cranky to answer things politely, I'm just going away. So feel free to ask questions anytime. And lots of other people answer questions besides me anyway. It's not just me. All right. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for showing up. It's good to see some old Fubu folks popped in here. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great day.